Hello and welcome to the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. This is a podcast dedicated to helping you live a happier, healthier, and stronger life. Building a life that you love starts with you owning your health and intentionally creating the best version of yourself. So if you're looking to better understand how proper nutrition, daily movement, mindset work, and strength training can help you create a life full of happiness and health, then you are in the right place. I generally hope that the tips, tricks, and information that we share will be the catalyst for change. I'm your host, Adam Lane. It's time to dive in. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a special double edition of Oak Performance Radio with the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast. With me today, Dr. Geoff Van Thiel.
Thank you, Adam.
Geoff, thanks for joining us. You're a busy guy. You chiseled out some time. Very much appreciate it. Geoff, for the tens of people that listen to the show that might not know who you are and why you're such a big deal, tell these people who you are.
Oh, I don't know about
and why you're such a big deal.
I don't know about a big deal, but I am an orthopedic surgeon with Ortho Illinois, focusing on sports medicine. So I see a lot of what you're talking about, and I think it's been funny. Our paths have crossed in a lot of different places in the sports world.
Yeah. Kids have played some lacrosse.
They have. They love it.
Love lacrosse.
Yes.
It's probably my favorite sport.
Yes, it's great. Great for young kids to watch my son get kind of hit for the first time and think that it was a bad foul, but it's not. It was a lot of fun for me.
There aren't many fouls in lacrosse.
No.
You just, because I did not realize how physical it was. I'm like, I'll throw the ball around. There's a reason they wear the helmet and shoulder pads.
Yeah,
for the guys.
sure. It's it's a good kind of contact too.
Yes.
There's different types of contact, but I think that's a really good type of contact.
Yeah. Well, especially with the concussion stuff going on with younger kids, with, the junior youth football stuff that starts so gosh darn young at times. And it's a thing. So Geoff, you see, what do you, orthopedic side of things, just to give people background, what do you see? Who do you work with? What's your specialty?
So I am focused on sports medicine. So I do a lot of sports medicine. Now, sports medicine is kind of like a catch-all phrase in orthopedics for a lot of different things. Okay. So the type of surgeries that I do are really the arthroscopic surgeries, little poke holes, cameras, that type of thing. Yeah. And I really see anybody from typically age of about 14 up to, 60, 65 years old. And I think sports medicine is probably described as like active people problems, I guess, if you will. So, it's a big range of people, but a relatively small subset of problems. It's just we see different variations of the same kind of problem in different age groups.
Gotcha. So let's start with young kids. So you have young kids, we have young kids.
Yeah.
What are you seeing? Because this is not your first year practicing. You've been doing this for a little while.
Yep.
In your tenure of doing this, what are you seeing in, I don't want to say kids these days, but I kind of want to know what you're seeing in kids these days.
Yeah. I mean, I think, I've been in practice 13, 14 years, and there's certainly been some changes both in youth sports as well as in kind of what I see in youth sports. I think the general specialty has seen an increase in overuse, what we'll call injuries. And so overuse is kind of this big catch-all type of phrase. And so I think overuse to me is better defined as a problem or a pain that somebody is having that's affecting their ability to play or at a level that they want to play at. But it's not like they had an injury that requires specific management of like surgery or something like that. So, and that's definitely, as we get a little bit older, we tend to not like me as much as we do when we're younger. Yeah. So maybe when you're younger and something's bothering you, it's not a big deal to come in. For people in our age group, it tends to be more like they come in and they have more of a significant problem because they've been putting it off or dealing with it for a while. Yeah. So, but overuse is certainly something that we see, and that goes a lot of different directions. So I don't want to get too specific right now, but overuse we've seen a growth in for sure in youth sports.
Okay. So with your kids, they are 9 and 11?
9 and 11.
Okay.
Yeah.
So in the way, because I had this thought with my own kids, like I want them to enjoy sport. I want them to work hard. I want there to be obstacles. I want them to overcome, the whole peaks and valleys thing. Sure. I want there to be, camaraderie and communication. Sure. There are going to be teammates they hate, teammates they love. I want like that whole grit experience for them. I don't want them to get hurt in that process. Some aches and pains, yes, but and if things happen, but you're a parent of kids, young kids. What's on your mind with them? Not saying you need them in a 4-day week strength conditioning program at the age of 9.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, you kind of hit on a lot of different points right there. And I think there's different segments of what we think about as parents in terms of our kids. So one, all the things you hit on, the grit is one of the most important things you can develop in life, right? And sports is a really, really great way to do that. Two, we know that if you get kids involved in sports early on, they're going to have a better body perception going forward, and they're going to tend to be healthier, more physically active adults with better body compositions. We know that. We know that kids that are involved in sports tend to have better mental health indicators as they go forward as well. So, there's all of this like unseen benefit of being involved in youth sports. Now, as we say, okay, well, yes, we want to get them in sports for all these various reasons. How do we get them in sports? And so that's where things get a little bit tricky. And we were talking a bit about this before the podcast. In orthopedics, I think we think of it as specialization in sport versus sampling in sport. And so sampling in sport is like, especially at a younger age, we'll say 12 and under, that you're playing kind of multiple different sports, where specialization is that you're really getting into one type of sport. And so there are some early indications that specialization too early can have some negative impacts. So we've really been focused on, we like the specialization because it gets our kids to a competitive level where they're really feeling challenged. They really feel like they need to work at something. They're getting good coaching. They're getting all those great feelings of like success, and I'm growing and I'm learning and all that. But at the same time, we try and build in that sampling where maybe we have them do other sports, not at that same level, because it gives them this outlet to do something different. Maybe one season, everyone around them grew a ton and got faster, and they went from being like pretty good to maybe not as good. And that can really have a mental impact on them. But then maybe they go to this other sport where they don't do it as much. It's at a little bit of a lower level, and they feel a lot of success in that sport. So, I think personally, as our family, we've tried to encourage some specialization for those things, but we've also really been try to be really good at the sampling and getting them into other sports as well, because I think there's good mental health benefits to that. And then also we know that there's decreased injury rates. And we'll probably get into this a little bit, but there's decreased injury rates in kids that sample different sports as opposed to being specialized in one specific sport.
I think it's so. Reed's football team last 2 years with Rockford Lutheran, it's a 6th, 7th, 8th grade team. Most of the 6th graders don't play. And if I was a parent of a 6th grader, I probably wouldn't want them to play either, because they're going against 8th graders, which some of them, I don't know this for sure, but I feel like some of them drove up to the game, and they have a better beard than I do. These some big kids here. But then it's funny to watch them stand on the sideline. You can see the difference between the 7th graders and the 8th graders, and it's about a head. It's about a head difference, and Reed's kind of he's a late bloomer. He's 8th grade, almost 14 years old, and a solid 94 pounds. Like it's just there's not, not a whole lot of size in it. So, but it is funny how, again, late bloomers, puberty hits at different times and whatnot. And, there was a study of Canadian hockey guys in the NHL, and I forget what percent it is, but it's like an extremely high percent of Canadian NHL players were born in the first quarter of the year. And how they backtracked it was, well, hey, if you were born in January, February, or March, and you got on your club team at the age of 4, or whenever Canada starts at 5, you were, the difference between if you were born in January to if you were born in November, that's a lot of development on a 4 or 5-year-old, 20% more developed, at that point. Well, so those older kids get on the better team. They get the better coaching that year. They improve more that year. Well, now the following year, same thing happens, better coaching, they improve more. So like just from the get-go, they kind of get this head start. And it's now again, it's hockey. It's one sport. So the idea of sprinkling in different sports, like who knows what's going to hit with kids. I don't know where I was going with that outside of the sprinkle piece.
I think you're, to some degree referring to, there's a book called Outliers that talks about, where they kind of go through that a bit. And it's real.
Who's that by? Is that Gladwell too?
It is. Yeah.
Okay.
And so it's a real problem, and it's not a problem, but it's a real issue. And I think there's 2 components to that. So one, you have the physical development, but at some point they're all going to kind of match up, right? This is post-puberty. They're going to match up. And at some point kids are going to be however they're going to be. And so you have the physical component early on, but that's where that mental component comes in, where a kid, to feel like they like doing something, needs to feel some level of success. And so that's where we get into this: what does success feel like to a kid versus what does success feel like to a parent? And so the kid, they want to have fun and feel like they're growing and feel like they're part of a team and have some level of respect within that team. And so you can give that to them all the way through. And, maybe these hockey players that are good but younger, if they're doing something else where maybe they feel that, they carry over that mental component to their hockey team and they want to stick with it. Whereas in the kid that's maybe the younger, smaller, slower kid, if he goes through all of youth hockey with everyone being, you're smaller, you're younger, you're slower, that's not going to be a positive self-worth. And so then he might have some giant growth spurt and have been the best hockey player ever, but he's kind of given up on himself, which is what it comes down to. And that's where, we talked about it before, that parents oftentimes think they're being motivating to their kids and like pushing them to be better, and that they're instilling some of the grit that we talked about. But especially in the parent-child relationship, a lot of times kids see that motivation as stress. And how they manage stress is different. They don't have the processing capabilities. They haven't developed the parts of their brain yet to do that. And so you introduce stress into that situation of negative feelings, and it's tough to come back from that. Whereas the sampling and getting into other sports is a really great way of doing that. And, and that's just, it's one of the issues with specialization. A parent may pull a kid out of a sport that they've put a lot of money into, but their kid's just not, they're on the B team. And so the kid's not good enough anymore, and they see it as like a wasted investment, and they say, okay, we're just not going to play anymore. But in reality is, you just got to stick with it a little bit. You got to focus on the right things, not the wrong things.
And I think it's hard for parents. Heather and I are a little battle right now with Quinn, because we're going into wrestling season, and I don't want to wrestle. I want to play basketball. I'm like, buddy, you've never played basketball in your life. I'm not against it or anything like that, but like the child doesn't even know the rules of this. Like we play knockout, lightning in the driveway. But if we called travel, there'd be a whistle every 6 seconds.
Sure.
And so we're trying to figure out, like, is this, and part of his issue too is that Reed got sick. They thought he had mono during last year's wrestling season. Turns out it was not mono, which was a little frustrating, but like he missed like a solid month of just being wiped out, which then required Quinn to go to wrestling practice by himself, which he was fine to do it when his big brother was there with him too, that like shared suffering thing. But when Reed wasn't there, then it's just like, wrestling, I don't even like it. Why am I here? Now, at the end of the season, performs really well, not at the state meet or anything, but like he did what he should have done, and, was competitive and was healthy and, safe with it. And so it's hard. The thing we're struggling with right now, like, do you push him and say, no, you got to do it. Suck it up, Buttercup. You're fine. Or is this really a thing where he needs to find himself and like, let's try basketball, and see what happens. And I'm trying to figure out if I, hey, we're going to develop some grit in you and we're going to be tough, or I don't know. But he also likes control because he's 10.
Right. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. That's probably the most difficult thing as a parent to determine, because if you look at like the components of burnout, let's say, so burnout has really kind of 3 components to it. One is you're starting to get fatigue longer than what you should in terms of recovery. 2 is that the kid is stopping progression in terms of how they're doing. And then 3, they're starting to have negative feelings about it outside of doing it. They don't want to go to practice. They don't want to do these things. Now, some of those components of burnout, not wanting to do those things, are very similar to kids just don't want to do things sometimes, right? And so you got to build the grit in, right? So I don't know that anyone has the answer to it, but we've gone through the same thing with our kids. When do you force them to continue doing something because they can't just quit something because it's hard or they don't like it for a little period of time, versus when do they not really like it because they don't really like it, And so I don't know. That's a real, both of our kids, that's been really tricky to find that sweet spot, because you don't have a bunch of kids that just, they decide they don't want to do something or they don't want to go to practice and they don't have to go because you don't want to be in a situation that's hard for them. That's not for sure not the right answer. but you also don't want to be in a situation where you're like forcing them to do something that they don't want to do. And I don't know where you find that happy medium, but it's hard.
Well, and it's funny because because mom she's the listener, so he'll this is dumb, I don't want to do this. Doesn't complain to me. So it's funny where like, are you just, who's driving the boat here?
Yeah. My daughter says, Dad, you just don't get me. Mom gets me. Dad, you just don't get me. And I'm like, just be quiet and just do whatever it is you need to do.
Gosh, I'll report back. I'll let you know how it goes. Okay. We're having a little family meeting tonight to figure this out.
Yeah, good luck with that.
Basketball's supposed to start tomorrow.
I know.
Oh boy, this is.
Yeah, I mean, it's a funny thing. My kid's too funny. It's funny you mentioned basketball because my daughter has never played basketball before in her entire life, and she's in 6th grade, and she wants to play basketball this year on the team. And that my son also wants to play basketball, and he may played a little bit of basketball, but we didn't think that was his thing. But like every night they're out in the driveway shooting baskets and like practicing right now. And it's like the coolest thing to see. Yeah. They're like, we want to do this. We're going to go practice at it. But at the same time, you have all these other, you're like, you only have so much time in life, right? Yeah. You can't let them do everything, you know, and how do you let them choose and guide them through the right choices for the right reasons and all that. So it's funny.
It's not easy. It is not easy. I want to transition to adulting here. We're about the same age, young, good looking guys.
Yes. Vibrant.
And vibrant. Yes. However, we were complaining before we hit the record that, a little tight shoulders, a little not as great. Sitting, driving, my knees are in the middle of Squattober here, so we're okay, but just, it's not, I don't skip out of bed in the morning.
Sure.
In the way of, as people get older, our age, older, and you're a nice guy, but say people don't want to see you. They don't want to, they want to avoid, that anything under the sun, the knee replacement, the hip replacement, shoulders, things, And I guess I'm more curious what you do yourself. 'Cause I mean, you're working 5 days a week, with a stressful job. Like I wake up in the morning, have a bad morning, say I spill my coffee. I'm upset. I come to the gym. I'm probably okay. You do that, you're going to be in somebody's hip, doing like, there's a different level of,
sure.
You can't bring your home stress with you to work stress, cause you have, what do you do? How do you handle health, happiness,
sure,
the whole shebang?
Yeah. I mean, I think, there's two ways. One, what do I see? And then two, what do I do? For me personally, my health journey has been changed a lot over the last couple of years because getting older, I think, has made things, like you said, a little more evident. My shoulder's bothering me right now. I can't lift like 5 pounds over my shoulder and it's bad. And I personally think, I know why this is happening to me. It's just a matter of focusing on the right things. So to me, I typically work out, fairly frequently, but I've always done the same thing. Okay. Like my workouts now are probably similar to what they were when I was like in my late 20s or early 30s, because you kind of get into a groove of how you do things a bit. So for me personally, flexibility is something that I need to work on a bit more. I find that when I do that, it does alleviate some of these things. Diet, I need to be better about, as I think most people do. It's a continual challenge. And then my big thing over the last year or so has been sleep. I used to wear it as a badge of honor how little sleep I could get and how functional I could be.
That's the doctor thing right there.
It is a little bit. You're up all night and you can still function the next day. But I've realized my recovery, my mental health outlook, my physical, how I'm feeling physically is so impacted by the amount of sleep and the quality of sleep that I get. So, those have really been kind of my biggest things. I do think that there is something to, we see a lot of fads that come in terms of diet fads, in terms of exercise, in terms of lifestyle, a lot of things kind of come and go. And it's not that I think there's any one right answer to any of that, but I do think the body does respond well to dramatic change. So, it's like a cold plunge. If you've never done a cold plunge before, like, do I really think like a cold plunge done for the rest of your life is going to be the only thing that's going to make you healthier? No, but do I think the shock to the system of that provides some significant health benefits for sure. Yeah. And the same thing with like dietary changes. My wife, we took my daughter off gluten years and years ago, probably 8 or 9 years ago, and saw a big change in some of her health stuff.
Oh, wow. Took it up early.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
So,
Okay.
and she never tested she never tested that she was allergic to it, but the health benefits were so immediate and large for her, even at the age of 3 or 4 years old, that we've continued it. And she's 11 now, and it's just part of her lifestyle now. But at the same time, my wife went off of it, and she felt significant changes in how her outlook was, her ability for physical fitness, and all of those things. Now, I tried it for a while, and I didn't have quite the same response that they did, because I think everyone's different. But that's one thing that they changed, that shock to the system kind of helped them out a bit.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
Yeah.
These are not exciting things you're talking about.
No.
Taking out wheat out of people, and then getting more sleep.
Right.
How do you so there's stress in your world, wife, kids, job.
Yeah.
how do you balance the stress in your world, so when you hit the pillow you're able to fall asleep?
Yeah, I mean, that's a tricky one. I'm a big believer in trying to cut down screen time. I think that's a really big one. I think it's pretty common for people to kind of scroll at night when they're going to sleep.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Adults, kids.
Oh, everybody.
Yeah.
I mean, it's interesting. My daughter, who's in 6th grade, she does not have a phone. We don't do screens or anything like that. And she's in a group of friends that kind of are the same way. And they've, where she previously had some, was in a situation where maybe more people had that, and they were kind of like asking about it and segmenting. And I find that she's a lot more balanced at night right now, having, come off of that stuff. She sometimes had a hard time sleeping. So I think screens are really big. It was funny. We were in a group of friends, and this is about a year ago, and everybody was just open about it. And we went into their screen times in their phone, and nobody knew it was going to happen, just sitting around. And we're said, put your phones on the table. We're going to pull up everyone's screen time. And it's mind boggling.
Yeah.
It's really mind boggling. The amount of people that were over 7 hours a day is like, I mean, and you think you're like, there's no way that I'm 7 hours, a day, but it's, so screens, I think, are really big. I think physical activity, I think getting to a certain level of strenuous physical activity, I think is important. So, nothing against some of the lower impact, lower heart rate stuff. I think that's good. And it's certainly better than nothing, but I think getting to a certain level of vigor in a workout has some benefits that you don't get at those lower levels that, I found increasing some of that even for shorter periods of time. So like my workouts, because my days get condensed with everything, have gotten shorter, but maybe a little bit more intense. And, I try and marry family time and workout time now. So,
there you go.
It's, I'm unfortunately not the person that gets to go to the gym for an hour, a couple days a week and kind of does that. So now usually half of my workout is like with the kids. Like,
there we go.
I'll go for a run. They'll ride their bike with me. We'll do something kind of active together. And then it's about 20 minutes of something relatively vigorous.
There we go. So you're more of a PM worker outer after.
Well, we do. Yes. For that standpoint, so I plan it. I also combine family time with my wife. So she's she's a very early morning person. So, I will go back and forth between like getting up, at 5 and doing like a 5:30 workout with her, versus if I know I'm going to be free in the afternoon and I know the kids don't have sports practices or something, I'll usually reserve that workout to that afternoon, because I like having them do it with me. I think, they see it, they learn it. And so those days, then I'll wait till that afternoon or evening and do something with them. I mean, we used to have baby workouts when they were younger, where I would be doing squats with them on my shoulders and so that's just continued for a long time.
Yeah.
Fun for them, fun for me.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and if there's a theme here, you're intentional with the workout. Like you put a little, it's tough because we're all busy, but you're planning it out. Like, hey, I'm going to chisel this out. It might be flexible too. Well, hey, it's going to be this on, this PM on this day, but might be this AM on this day. And just might have to be a little flexible with what happens. And I think sometimes people struggle with that. They're like, it's a funny how our morning crew is extremely on it. Like they rarely miss. If they're Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, they are Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and it never shifts. But our PM group, if they're Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, well, Tuesday might turn into Wednesday, or Tuesday might turn into just not coming on that day, they come only one day, and then the next week they try to come 3 or 4 days. And it's just funny how, the important thing, what I'm getting at, what you're saying is that you just have to take control of it a little bit and plan it out. You're doing it from home, and you're making it a family thing.
Yeah,
We're
I
winning.
mean, yeah, exactly. And I think I a few years ago started listening to some of these Navy SEAL books on leadership because I think it's just
Yeah.
an interesting, like when you're in that
I'm a huge
stressful.
Jocko fan.
Yeah, there you go. Right. So extreme ownership,
Yes,
is
yes.
is one of those.
Yeah.
And, it's kind of one of those, if you boil it all down, it really comes down to don't make excuses, right?
Yeah.
Like whether you think it's your fault or not your fault, there's always going to be these external influences, but ultimately you're the one that has the ability to kind of do that. And
Yeah.
being intentional is a good way of putting it, trying to schedule things out, hold yourself accountable. I think doing it with someone else holds you accountable.
Yeah.
There's plenty of mornings I don't want to get up at 5 a.m. and work out. My wife will probably say that's been a little bit more frequent recently, but that's why she's much better about it than I am all the time. But when you have like a partner in some of that, it's that accountability that's really important. So for someone that's looking to start a health journey, that's starting to look for a physical journey, and I see it in my patients too, when you do it with somebody or with a group or with something where there's the accountability, it's like your morning group here. They know that even if they're not like the best of friends with everyone there, everyone recognizes each other, they all kind of know the name, that if they don't go and then the next time they come back, so-and-so is going to be like, hey, we didn't see you, whatever. And so there's that accountability that's there. They probably go more than if they were just to be here by themselves every single time that they were here. Yeah. So I think that's a helpful way of motivating you to kind of push forward.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm going to jump off topic and then bring it back. In a perfect world, just because I'm curious, because Heather and I are having these conversations, because Reed doesn't have a phone, he's 13, and honestly has shown no interest in like, oh, Jack has a phone, can I get one? Like, we just haven't. We have a home cell phone that that just stays at home, and honestly, if he goes on a trip or whatever, he'll take that one or whatever, not a big deal. In your perfect world, how long would you push it before your kids get a phone?
Yeah, so that's certainly a loaded question, and nobody ever is meant to be passing judgment on anybody else's decisions.
No, not at all.
Lots of people have various reasons for different things, and this is a big driver of my wife, and so she. More recently than not, but it kind of supported what she was doing, read a book called The Anxious Generation, which goes into how screens, or specifically phones early on, affect the mental health of kids going forward. And in that book, and we had kind of known some of this before, they basically have like a thing like wait till eighth. So 8th grade is kind of the where we said, they have watches now because with sports practice, with Apple Watch, so we can track them if something gets done early or something, like they can call us on it, but they actually lose their watches all the time. They don't even care about them. Like, it's like, it's so irritating because they're always losing, and they're like, oh, it's fine. I don't even need it. And they're like, okay, fine. We used to call home collect and be like, pick me up at school.
Yeah.
Would you accept
and then hang up,
pick me up at school? But now they have these Apple Watches, but we're pretty set. And till 8th grade that would be the soonest they would get a phone. And even then, I think, social media won't be till 16. And
there we go.
That's what we say right now. I recognize I have a 9 and 11-year-old. So right now we can do it, but, things may change and all that. But our goal is, a cell phone at 8. And I actually would like to wait longer than that. And, right now our kids lost the push to get it. So right now we have no push. I'd actually like to wait longer than that, but then social media at 16. I mean, in Australia, they basically outlawed social media in kids under the age of 16. And so that, I think, is where we, that I think is a tricky thing, which everybody kind of hears about.
Yeah. I would not be against that. We have a friend at the gym, and I actually taught his daughters in class years ago, and they're grown and whatnot. And I'm trying to remember ages here, but like one was a little older, obviously one was older, one was younger, but one really, when they came through high school, the cell phone was not a big deal. The social media piece was not a big deal, but the second one coming behind, it was a huge deal. And it's funny because growing up, like mental health was never talked about. We didn't use that phrase, like, unless somebody's a schizophrenic type crazy, something, but now it's like mental health. And it's the adults and it's the kids and it's, I don't know where I'm going with this outside of like, I don't know. It's a tough thing for parents, and I think it's a tough thing for adults to handle that, that screen time. I'd be embarrassed to see what my screen time is right now, to be honest with you. Because honestly, I do a lot of the marketing stuff with the gym, and, so I'll post things, but then I'll look to see what other people are doing and what are they doing? Oh, that's a good idea, blah, 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 blah. And 45 minutes later, I should be sleeping right now. What am I doing? Like, it's just, it's so, how you can just dive down rabbit holes and whatnot. So,
Yeah, for sure.
Geoff, what did we miss? What do you wish I would have asked you that I didn't?
Oh, I think, if we had to jump into some different topics that I think are really relevant to what you do, and especially working with the VC team and the VC crew and all the other sports that you work with, is this focus on youth performance versus youth injury prevention and how you find a happy medium with all of that. So what we know, and I'm going to talk to you just a little bit here, and you can kind of take a tangent for me. So, what we know is there's probably 3 segments of kids. You have your post-puberty kids, you have like your peri-puberty kids that are in the middle of puberty, and then you have your pre-puberty kids. And there's different things for each one of those. So in the post-puberty kids, you'll actually see much more significant performance enhancement with focus on things like strength and plyometrics and all that type of stuff. Now that goes away a little bit more in the peri-puberty and the pre-puberty kids. You don't see the same level of like, I'm going to go do a bunch of squats and do a bunch of sprints and I'm going to get faster. We don't see that happen as much in there. So as parents are starting to think about kind of what to get involved in or what type of stuff to do, that end of peri-puberty into the beginning of post-puberty, there's some significant advantages to getting involved in like strength and more vigorous workouts. And we think that it is a little, if you do it for longer as opposed to short periods for more, that there may be some benefit to that, for whatever reason. Now, if we say, okay, well, that doesn't mean don't do anything for these peri-puberty kids and these pre-puberty kids, because what we also know is that with something called neuromuscular type training, in pre-puberty, peri-puberty, and post-puberty kids, injury rates and pain, so overuse type stuff, goes down 30 to 60% if you're involved in that type of stuff. And probably the most dramatic difference that we've seen is in female soccer players. So FIFA has like an ACL prevention program, and so they implemented it in female soccer players, which are 6 to 7 times more likely to have an ACL tear than a male soccer player. And it's essentially, this particular program is like a 20-minute program that they do at the beginning, 3 times a week at the beginning of practices, that focuses on like flexibility, like core strength, and like mechanics. So like landing mechanics, running mechanics, pivoting mechanics, how to think about controlling your body, which is like the neuromuscular training is I think a better way to explain it is neuromuscular training is like how to control your body in space. And so what we've seen is that if you focus on some of those mechanical things, even early on, there's significant benefit to injury prevention going forward. So, I mean, you probably see it in like these volleyball players that grow 10 inches, 12 inches in a year, and you watch them land and their knees are kind of bending one way and they're landing straight, and, they can't do it one single leg squat, without falling over. And so, those types
of
like
even a bilateral squat.
Yeah, there you go. So those types of like core stability, and then like single leg squats, like balance board stuff, where you're learning to control your body in space, we find has significant benefits all the way through. So, we kind of talked about sampling and specialization, and I don't necessarily believe that if you only do one sport, it's that one sport that's causing this overuse injury, because what I see is younger kids that are involved in one sport compared to like college level kids that are involved in one sport. If you ask me the difference between those two, it's the strength and conditioning component in the college level that you don't see early on. Like, because they know as they get older, you can't just play basketball 5 hours a day, every day, and that's how you're going to get better. You got to do strength training, you got to do neuromuscular component, you got to do plyometrics and all that. So, as kids get older and they get into higher levels of sport, there's more diversification of their training regimens. And so I think that's really important, is it's not necessarily about playing all these different sports, but it's about focusing on the right things. So it's about implementing early, diversification of training, not the same thing all the time. It's not just about doing that sport early on. And then it's about doing the right type of thing for the right type of age group. So, if we take an example of that, like having a 10-year-old and be like, we're going to do a whole bunch of squats with him because we're going to make his core and quads stronger so he can jump higher, and that's all we're going to focus on, they're probably not going to hit your goal, you know? And that 10-year-old is probably not going to make a difference. But if you get them doing like some balance board stuff and learn to better control their body in space, they're going to be it's actually going to improve performance a little bit more, but then also significant injury prevention with that. So that was a lot in a little period of time.
No,
but
I think
throw
that's
that out there, too.
fantastic. Well, and especially with our younger kids too, we gamify so much. So we kind of get their brains to turn off. So they just go, just make it happen. Plant and cut. I don't care how you want to do it, but somehow you have to touch the white line with your foot, and get out of there. And, and through that, if we can, hey, well, turn it a little bit more, turn it a little bit more. Oh, that's perfect. Whatever it is. It and again, it's funny to see. And I agree with you with the like sports specialization thing. Like, I don't think specializing in a sport, if kids don't have interest in other sports, that's a bad thing. But I do see that the kids that come to us who have played, lacrosse and soccer and wrestling and football, and like just seem to do things better. Like they're able to, make those adjustments. They have that body control that some other kids might not. But then, of course, puberty can hit and mess up everything, and change everything in a hurry. And
what's interesting is, so this is not definitive, but I will say that there's been a study or two that would suggest that sports specialization only matters in a very few select sports, mainly gymnastics and figure skating, in terms of the eventual level of competition that you get to, meaning that they haven't seen in a lot of team sports early specialization affects the end result of what that person gets to in terms of like how they are going forward. So for whatever that's worth for parents, 2% of kids that play high level sports are going to end up with some degree of a college scholarship, and the much smaller percentage even going on beyond that. But especially, and the age cutoff, it's kind of different. It's 12 or 14 or kind of what they're looking at, but they don't find that single sport specialization before 12 or 14 impacts how good somebody's going to be at the end of their career a little bit.
So you take Johnny, and Johnny's never played basketball in his life, but decides to pick up a ball at the age of 12. He'll be, if this is what he was kind of wired up to do, play at a high level, he's got the height for it, whatever it is, he's going to be fine. Versus also Johnny, if you started him with a basketball in his hand at the age of 4, and develop him up. Doesn't matter when he crosses that sport.
That's correct.
Okay.
There's just so many other components to it. And kind of like you alluded to, a lot of those people that don't pick up a sport till later on, they've developed all these different ways of controlling and moving their body and the other things that they've done, which translates really well to that sport that they're going to do. And then there's obviously physical gifts that they're going to have with it. But then you also don't have some of the mental components that go along with being specialized really early on. Like an 8-year-old that is doing something 5 days a week, 3 to 5 days a week, all year round, and traveling and doing all this other stuff. There's just a huge risk of like, not just burnout, but it's just a lot for somebody of that age. And so, I think there's probably a mental health component to that as well. Whereas if you find something that you're super passionate about, you're really good at, and you find that yourself, meaning that you weren't guided to that, you weren't forced into that, there's just this whole, this whole feeling of ownership, and I want this, and this is what I want. And I came to this conclusion on my own, and I've been doing all these other things that have gotten me physically ready to do this. And now I can really get into it. Is there's something to it. So, if the takeaway from that, I think, is if I had to tell parents to do one thing, it would be try a few different things, especially early, 12 years old and younger for sure, and guide and support, but don't push, which is hard to do. But, the easy thing is let them be on some goofy little rec team in some sport that they don't do. If they have a sport that they're really passionate about, like maybe their friends are playing whatever sport or doing some other thing, and, let them do that. Don't be like, oh, we have practice 4 nights a week in this. We don't have time in our lives to do this. There's a lot of value in making time to do that, because the research would show that how they're going to be at 8 versus how they're going to be at 18 probably doesn't matter what they do in that time period.
Yeah. So I should let Quinn play basketball. That was.
I mean, Quinn does a lot of stuff, Quinn's not so specialized in everything, but, I don't know. There's something to, letting them find their own path. And, I think that's how you can't instill grit in your kid. You can't motivate or tell your kid to to be great. You could put them in situations where, they need to learn that a little
Yeah.
bit, but ultimately it's an intrinsic thing. And sometimes that just comes in funny ways, and you just don't. I have a good friend whose kids are eighth or ninth grade, so like 13-ish years old or so, 12 or 13. Never played hockey before in their entire life. Wants to play hockey. Dad lets him go out and does a little bit of like coaching, lets him go with a coach in a rec league. The most passionate I've ever seen anyone about anything. Like up at 4:35 in the morning before school, only eats salads and protein, training in hockey. And this has been going on for like a year and a half now, 2 years, training like 2 to 3 hours a day, just found something that like, it's like, and the kids are very athletic. They, play baseball and they've done basketball, and he's actually, he has a brother that has no interest in hockey. Family has no background in hockey, but just like something ignited in that kid. And, we talk about how cool it is to see it, but you just want to give kids an opportunity to find that spark, whatever it is, it's, it's, you don't know where it's going to come. You don't know how it's going to come. You just want to be supportive and motivating and, encourage the right things.
Yeah. Which is not always easy as a
Never
parent.
easy. Never easy.
To figure out the right things. And that's fun.
Yeah.
Geoff, I appreciate this, man.
Of course.
Did I miss anything else? We crushed it. 40 minutes. So. We're doing well.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully it's interesting to someone.
Yeah. Very good. No, I think so. Well, and again, the whole kid thing is tough. Balancing being an adult in 2025, I think, is very hard. There's so many distractions. If you don't have any stress, just open your phone. You can just scroll through all the social media and find all the stress of all the bad things going on in the world. And then you try to balance it with, family and your profession and the stress that comes with that. And like, it's not easy. And hey, work out.
Yeah.
Do something.
Yeah.
If you can integrate other people with you, even better in which to get good sleep. That's not a pill that sells right there. It's so not sexy to say, but man, so gosh darn important.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. If you can hit down those, I think we were talking about this before, the Venmo guy who wants to live forever. Sleep is his thing.
Yeah.
Like, do you track your sleep?
I do kind of. I have a mattress thing that tracks it.
What do you use? What's your
to track it?
Yeah.
So Sleep Number is what we do to track it. I have another friend that I work with that's really into it, and he does there's a mattress pad. It's like 8 or something like that.
8 sleep.
He does a ring, and he's really into it. So, I find that I don't know that it impacts how I look at it, like my HRV and everything else. Some days I feel well rested and I didn't do very well, and other days. So I try and do the right things, because you kind of know what to do.
Yeah.
And then, based on how I feel.
Yeah.
But nobody's alone. Everyone goes through the challenges of all the stuff that you just started talking about. And, I think it's very easy to feel like you're on an island sometimes, but it's crazy. But yeah, the sleep thing is big. I've got to be better about the diet, and then just trying to find my time for physical fitness is big.
Yeah. It's not easy.
No, it never. It's every week. My wife and I sit down and we're like, okay, what do we got going on? What do we have going on this week? Who's going where? How are we going to do this? Yeah. And we actually structure our workouts into that. So it's kind of like, who's going to take Parker to soccer? Well, I'm going to work out at this time, and so it's a team approach to doing that.
Yeah. Well, and I've hacked things before where I take my rucksack to lacrosse practice.
For sure.
Or go for a little jog, while the kids are doing stuff. Like,
oh yeah.
I don't need to sit there and watch the kid practice.
No, that's the best way to do it.
I love my child, but I think I don't want to be that parent that's yelling off the practice field, which sometimes there are those parents that.
There's lots and lots. And then no knock on anyone that's motivated on it, but yeah, you're right. I mean, most club sports now, it's funny. There's a parent meeting in the beginning of all these club sports, and they're like, you can cheer, you can be positive, but don't get angry, don't direct, don't, do all the stuff that, it's, you see people doing. But you're right. You got to hack it. Like, you're going to drive to practice, and maybe it's 15, 20 minutes to practice, and say practice is an hour and a half. You drive 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back, 15 minutes there, 15 minutes back, that's an hour's worth of time.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas if you drive 15 minutes there, go work out for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever during that time.
You
And
got
then drive
time
back.
to stretch and cool down.
Yeah. I mean, you're saving time,
Yeah.
it's, you gotta find those minutes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't want to say that's not hard. I also see a lot of parents just sitting in the car scrolling on their phone, and doing that thing, and not to criticize, because I've done that too. Hey, it's a long day.
Yeah.
Oh man. Hey, let's do some work. Let's reply to some emails or whatever it might be. But man, if you could make that a priority, again, you don't have to train 7 days a week.
Yeah.
Hit your,
I think, if we're getting into metrics that I actually look at, the only metric that I would say, and this changes a little bit, that I look at right now. So I base things on time, but I look at my screen time.
Yeah.
My goal each week is to reduce my screen time from the week before. And you realize how hard it is, and you have to do things to be intentional about that. So, some of the little things that I did is, I have never been a big Apple Watch person, but I got an Apple Watch, because now, like at work or at home, I leave my phone in one spot because I have my Apple Watch, because there's often times where somebody needs to get a hold of me for something. But with my Apple Watch, I can get a call, I can get text messages, I get some alerts, but I can't like do the things that you're talking about, like my kids will joke. I always joke with my kids. I'm like TickGram or face, face talk or whatever. Like, like the old dads, or they're like, Dad, you're so embarrassing. Just stop. But like, you don't get caught up in that. It's really easy when you like have a minute or two and you're just like, oh, I'm just going to look at whatever you're going to look at, And so if I don't have that
usually nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. If I don't have that, I find that helps. But the crazy thing to me is I still recognize my want to do that. It's an addiction, no doubt. 100% it's an addiction. And there's good research that shows that in young kids. Like, you take an iPad away from a 3-year-old that's used to having it, they stimulate the same areas of brain that like a Coke addict has, when they're getting it. I mean, it's like an addictive thing. And every parent knows that. I mean, you see like the unreasonable temper tantrum when you take technology away that you don't see with other things. But I actually still recognize the feeling that I have when I have a moment of downtime and I'm not doing something and I don't have my phone, like that want or desire that to like do that. And it's crazy to me that I never thought I was like that.
You want the crack.
Yeah. And I've been doing this for a little while and I still feel it, like it's just strange. You touch your pocket where you keep your phone. And if you don't have it, you're like, there's, it's like things are like falling apart, it's just, it's a very strange thing, and, it's I don't know. It's just a goofy thing. And, but I recognize it. I don't know that I recognize it as much as I do now, like how truly addicted I probably still am to that level of technology and how hard it is to break that.
Yeah. That watch thing is interesting, because my thought was, I don't want to Apple Watch. I'm going to be attached to it all the time. I won't be able to get away from it, blah, 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 blah. But I'm not scrolling on Instagram, with it.
Yeah.
And often it's right there, I'll have my phone within hand. It's just in case my wife needs to get a hold of me, or, something changes after school. Quinn got sick at school. I got to go pick him up. Blah, 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 blah. Like, I like that. I like that a lot.
What's funny is you'll see like people's mental and brain activity to, a lot of the research was done with like opening an email or text message that they get like, or if, some message directly to them, there's like a good feeling, a little good feeling. There's a little endorphin rush that comes with that. And so I think it kind of starts there, right? So like, let's say you're like, I'm going to put my phone over here. How many times are you touching the screen to see if there's a message that came through that you didn't hear or didn't come through? And then all of a sudden, once you open that door, then you're into it, right? You take your phone out of your pocket, you look at it to see if there's a message. Oh, I didn't have a message. I don't have that endorphin rush from having a message, because someone sends you a message, you get an endorphin rush. You're like, maybe I want to get that endorphin rush. Maybe I'm going to check my, I don't know, whatever, Messenger, Facebook Messenger app, or I'm going to check my email, or nope, didn't get that there. And then it's like this thing where you're constantly like searching for that, that validation or that little endorphin rush. And so I find that if I have a watch on, I know I'm going to get something. I don't have to check my phone to see if I missed something. And, I can go long periods of time now. I can go full days without it, without touching the phone.
How close does the phone have to be to the watch?
Well, so I got the cellular Apple Watch.
Okay, gotcha.
So like I could actually leave my phone at home and I would still get text messages and phone calls.
Okay.
And so I worked into that. So I had the one that just connected to like Wi-Fi or my phone to it. And that's when I recognized like, hey, I can even do better. Like I can be at a sports practice and I can leave my phone in the car and just have my watch, and I could just be present and not have to have my watch or my phone with me when they're like off doing something that I don't care about. I'm not randomly looking at stuff. So now with the cellular one, I can, I'm not worried about it. I can go anywhere with it. And it's for anyone that's trying to do it, because I tried to decrease my screen time for a long time, and I couldn't do it. And everybody does it, because I've seen it happen. We have the friends where we put the phone down, we look at the screen time. Everyone justifies like their screen time. Oh, I needed to, call this, or I was listening to music, or my kids were watching my phone, TV on my phone, or I need to check my email for work or whatever. I mean, there's always a justification or a reason for it, know, and, I think some of that's valid. I think some of that's, probably not valid. I think some of that's an excuse. And so, like, I think you're probably okay emailing, 3 times a day, it's like,
the world will be okay.
It will be okay. Right. And so you don't need to be responding to emails every 5 minutes. But that, for me, I found I had a really hard time doing it on my own, knowing that I was trying to do it. I did not have the willpower to do it. And so then I tried to implement these other things that helped me do it. And I'm still not great, but I'm better. I'm for sure better.
Yeah. That watch hack is,
I
like that.
Yeah.
That was working in the opposite way that my mind thought, but yeah.
And we get into the wait till 8, wait till 8th grade for a phone. And it's really hard to like tell your kids that if you're not leading by example. Right. Yeah. So like, you're getting ready for dinner and you're looking at your phone for no reason to do anything, and your kids are there with you and they see you looking at your phone, and then they're like, I want a phone. And you're like, no, you can't have a phone for another couple of years. Like there's this like disconnect, right? You gotta
look how mature I am right now.
Right. No, and you're like, stop, no, you can't have a phone, and you're like looking down at your phone, and
it's
you're
bad
like,
for you, kid.
And they're like, well, what are you doing? And you're like, I'm doing something important. And it's like, some reel or something of some, I don't know, cat jumping off a dock or whatever it is. I don't know. But, and so like, but that happens all the time, and so I think there's a lead by example component to it. And so, especially in the summer, when I found that, on weekends when I'm maybe, you're doing more active stuff with the kids, they're out of school, they don't have as much stuff, that I found that I would be on my phone sometimes when I'm with them, like when I should be with them. And so, now if I just do the watch all day, I'm with them and they don't see me doing that. And, it's a lot easier to say, you can't have a phone if they don't see you using your phone.
Yeah.
Personal opinions,
Geoff, that's fantastic. That is really good. That's really good.
My wife's probably gonna listen to this and she's gonna be like, "You're so full of crap. You don't do any of that. That's none of it."
Oh.
But,
Okay, that's easy. That is easy. No, I think that's a perfect place to wrap up there, dude. We went much longer than I thought we were going to. This was great.
Sure,
I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy guy. People want to follow you and see what you're doing. I know you have a website.
I do. Van Thiel MD is my website. We do have some Facebook and Instagram feeds.
Speaking of that, get rid of that watch. Go back to your phone.
Yeah. So along with my social media approach, I don't have a lot of interaction on those, but we do try and put some blog stuff up and, do our website. Yeah. And I'm always happy to hear from people. So, website's probably the main place to look for some information.
Gotcha. What are the socials?
I don't. So that's that's where
I'll go look.
We're gonna have to put those up. We're gonna have to do like an edit and clip in on those, because I gotta look them up. I gotta talk to my marketing people about it. So
there we go. But but a lot of good educational stuff on the website. Talking everything orthopedic.
Yeah, most things, within the sports medicine realm. I think we're trying to get, we're going to be getting into some deeper information on some of those kind of more non-traditional stuff. So I see so many people with pains that I can't explain and that maybe I can't treat with traditional medications and injections and surgery and that type of thing. But yet people are having an issue that they're experiencing. So I think there's a lot to like diet, nutrition. We're starting to jump into a little bit of the peptide stuff to some degree, which is really crazy, in terms of the depth of information. But, there's some wellness stuff that we're going to be starting to take a tack down. So, you can log on and take a look to see what we put together.
Gotcha. Is it a little bit more proactive versus reactive with it?
In terms of you're talking about how so?
In the way of, I don't know, part of my mind goes to the peptide piece.
Yes. It's, so I think there's a lot of peptide stuff that's out there. And so
I can't keep up. I don't know if you've sorted it out.
No, I mean, it's really nutty. And what kind of crystallized that to me is there's a guy called Huberman Lab. You probably know him. He does a peptide episode, and he lost me 75% of the way through. And I was like really trying to engage in it and like really trying to like understand it. And like,
this makes me feel better because he loses me in most podcasts.
Like, they're talking about BPC 27, and then they go to this and that, and you got to do this and that. I mean, it was just it's a lot.
Yeah.
I think there's something to it, where I see it in surgery, especially people that are really into it, they want to inject it into the surgical site because there's some evidence that peptides within the tissue and it enhances recovery. I don't agree with, not that I don't agree with, but I don't encourage that at this point because I think there's just too much downside to that. But I think there's something to it. I just don't know where it's at. I mean, most of it's injectable. There aren't a lot of oral-based peptides that get the kind of distribution that you're looking for. But, I think most of the time where I see it and probably the interest that I have in understanding it is just better to maintain your health as opposed to being maybe reactive in terms of what you're talking about, where I have a problem, I want to get recovery for it. So more like, hey, I'm having this issue in my life that medicine can't explain. I'm focusing on these. Yeah. Here's another component of something that I can add in a problem area that I have.
There we go. Awesome. So guys, check out the website.
Yeah.
Sorry, one more time. What was it?
Van Thiel? Van Thiel, VANTHIELMD.com.
Yeah. Awesome. Geoff, thanks for taking the time, sir. I appreciate it.
Yeah, super fun.
Listeners, thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.
That's all we have for you today. If you have any questions or want to chat or interested in seeing what we're up to in between episodes, head over to Instagram and Facebook and follow @OakStrength. Also check us out at oakstrength.com. If you like this episode, please share it with someone who wants to live happy, healthy, and strong. If you really liked it, subscribe and review the Happy, Healthy, Strong podcast on iTunes or Spotify. Be sure to tune back in next week and remember to keep owning your health.